What's up? So welcome to week 8. Today I want to go over injuries because you might have one, you might get one. It's part of the game because you're lifting weights. So I want to talk to you about what your game plan should be in order to minimize that process and be able to go through it without having to step away. Because I've seen a lot of people just either A, not get started with weight training, or B, have it sidelined. And from a guy that's hurt his ankle, his knee, his hip, his spine, his shoulder over the course of the last 15 years, I'll tell you that there are things that work. And there are the things that do not work, which is to stop. So now that you have learned some of the major components of a set, like the rating of perceived exertion, range of motion, alignment, tempo, this is going to make sense. So let's, for example, take, I'm going to bring up the same, let's go this one. So I came out of college, I herniated 2 discs in my lower back. Had stenosis and arthritis. It was trash. It was really bad. Couldn't run, hurt when I sneezed, couldn't wrestle anymore. And so I was very fragile. And so I wanted to strengthen my legs because I knew that that would help me get stronger, because I knew that supporting myself from the bottom up, having muscles underneath my lower back that were working for me, was going to help. But when I did back squats, barbell on my back, even I think it was like 45 pounds, it hurt. The compression on my spine just hurt. It was too much. And so what I began to do was to search for other exercises that would hit those muscle groups in that similar movement pattern, but not give me as much pain. And so I came across the kettlebell. And I found that being able to hold the weight here, as opposed to have it here, was just different. It allowed me to contract my core more. It allowed me to keep a more neutral spine. And so I was able to start to get back into that squat movement pattern, strengthen my glutes, my quads, my hamstrings, gain confidence in myself, and then over the course of maybe a year later, I began to start to work with a barbell again. And so the first piece of advice I want to give you is, if a movement pattern hurts you, look for ones that are similar. When I had patellar tendonitis, just doing in my knee, regular lunges like this would hurt. But I found that doing curtsy lunges targeted muscle groups a little bit differently in my legs. It targeted the inner thighs more. It took a little bit of pressure off my patella, and so I worked with this window. That's how I view it. I view exercises as windows, and sometimes a window's closed, so you want to open up another one. And sometimes it takes a little bit of trial and error. Sometimes it takes research. A lot of times you can just ask us though, and we'll tell you, because we know what is good for the body. The second piece that you want to work with when it comes to staying with an injury and trying to rehab it is your tempo. I went over this when I talked about tempo. Slow down. Slow down. If this bothers you, but doing it over the course of 5 seconds down and 2 seconds up doesn't, work with it. Work with it for a couple of weeks until you can get back to a normal tempo, like a 2 second down, 1 second up. That's going to allow you to develop a mind-muscle connection, not irritate the joint, and get back to where you were. Sometimes you can't even move in order to rehab an exercise. You have to do stability exercises. For example, when I tore my rotator cuff, I found that doing overhead presses just painful. If it was a 5 out of 10 or more with pain, I was like, nope, I'm not doing it. I got to find something else. And so what I learned to do was stability exercises where there wasn't an up and down movement, but rather the shoulder just had to learn how to stabilize. So I would do things like that. I would do Turkish get-ups. And I worked with these for a while until I was able to pick up a lighter kettlebell and start to move it up and down again. So that's another way, your tempo. Third way to go about doing it is looking at neighboring muscle groups and hitting them. I found that while going above my head was painful, going out to the side, working on the rear deltoid, doing external rotation, working on the neighboring muscles of the muscle group or joint that hurt me was another way to build my strength back up. So these are all ways that you can go about doing it. You have to sometimes guess a little bit. You have to do a little bit of trial and error. You can also reach out to us and we'll give you some advice. But sometimes you have to play around with it. And I think that that's the process that a lot of people don't want to go through in order to rehab themselves. Physical therapy will be fine, but they're only going to get you from here to here. If you want to get to that level of strength where you used to be, you're going to have to go through this playful area where you try different exercises, you play around with how fast you go about doing them, and ultimately in the long run, incorporate the exercises that you want to do that hurt you in the first place. All right, so I hope that that helped. I will see you in the next module.